Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. My special guest for today is Christina Lazaros. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes, you did. Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Don't be afraid to correct my pronunciation. Who is Miss International Netherlands 2024? Christina, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm doing fine. I'm feeling so honored to be in your podcast, in your live stream, because I've been listening to your podcasts for a while. So it was, on my bucket list, like have a, podcast with Adrian. So I can check that out.
Well, I guess I should be honored that I featured on your bucket list. I have interviewed a couple of, I interviewed Satya Langstraat. I don't know if you know Satya. That was back when she was Miss Earth. God, I don't remember. I think it was 2021.
Yes, correct.
During that COVID period, I lost all track of time. And then
Yeah.
I was supposed to interview Noah, but she actually got quite badly sick the night before our interview. So she was throwing up and all sorts of horrible things. So you are my second Dutch interviewee. Why don't we start with what's the weather like in the Netherlands at the moment?
Well, it's turning autumn right now. So actually yesterday we had I'm afraid our final summer day with like really nice weather. It was about 24 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
But they say that from now on it's getting, more rainy and more windy outside. So yeah, it's nice still, but could be better.
I'm on the other side of the world to you, so we're going into summer. So it's now getting warmer and sunnier. The days are getting longer, so I'm really happy.
Yeah.
But it's funny, because so many of my interviews are in the northern hemisphere, and they're all going into winter, and they're really sad, and I'm really happy. So There's a bit of a disconnect going on there. Why don't we start with? I say for most people it's the easy question, but for you it might be a long answer because of how many things you do. But let's start with pageantry. Tell people watching how you got into pageantry and also all the different things you do, because this is not just you are representing yourself. You have a whole, I have it on my screen there, a whole list of things that you do in pageantry and other stuff, which we'll get to. But tell us about pageantry.
About pageantry. Well, in 2013, I started, with my first participation. A friend of mine was actually scouted, and I was like, you got scouted? I want to be scouted too. I was feeling like, why is she scouted and I'm not? So I subscribed. I signed up myself, saying that I was scouted as well, of course.
Okay.
And then I joined the pageant together with her. And I actually won the prize that I wanted. I got a wild card for another pageant. And instantly I fell in love with the world of pageantry. So from 2013 up till now, I think I have participated in a total of 12 or 13 pageants. And in 2017, I joined a pageant in my state, was Miss Beauty of Groningen. And after I won, I actually stayed in the organization. And since 4 years now, I took the pageant myself. I organize it myself now. And I select a candidate for the Miss Universe Netherlands pageant, Miss Earth Netherlands, and Miss Teen International pageant. So that's really, really nice. And now I participate in Miss International myself, which is a really, really great honor. So but that's how I got into pageantry, and that's how pageantry basically became my life. I breathe pageantry. I smell pageantry. Everything about me is
smell
pageantry. Everything about me is pageantry, really.
I'm just thinking what smell would be pageantry, and I think hairspray would be pageantry.
That's a really good one. Yeah.
Tell me, as I said, I've interviewed Satya before. I know a little bit about Dutch pageantry, but not a lot. So I'm curious, how well known is pageantry in the Netherlands?
I have to say that with the Miss Beauty of the Netherlands pageant starting 10 years ago, it's becoming bigger every year. Before that, it wasn't so big. And still, when you ask people on the street, like, do you know pageantry in the Netherlands? It's not so big, not as big as in Asia or Latin America anyway. But yeah, I think it's getting bigger, and especially under the younger generation, younger girls, it's becoming more popular. Yeah.
Okay. And what changes? So you've been in pageantry over a decade. I don't want to make you feel old, but I mean, I've been doing this for a long time as well. But 11 years is a long time to be in pageantry, first off as a competitor and now as a director. I'm curious, what are some of the changes you've seen in pageantry over those 10 years? You must have seen some changes.
Yes. I feel like when, like 10 years ago, you could sign up, but it was really difficult to, to get into that small circle of people that finally would go, to the big pageants. I think that nowadays pageantry in the Netherlands is much more, how do you say it in English? It's much easier to participate, let's say. It's much,
Get involved. It sounds like.
Yeah, it's like it's easier to join, and it's also not for only the rich, for example. The Miss Beauty of the Netherlands pageant is really a pageant that you can, everyone can you can join. So yeah, I think it's really it changed it that way. Yeah.
Right, which is a good change. I mean, I would say it still helps to have money when you go into pageantry, because pageantry is not the cheapest sport or hobby. It's probably one of the most expensive, depending on how you want to do it. So just to clarify, so Miss Beauty of the Netherlands, that's kind of like the big overall pageant, and that picks girls to go to the various other pageants like Universe, Earth, and International?
International, Intercontinental, Miss Asia Pacific International, Miss Global, Miss Charm, name them. It's a lot.
Okay, so how are you balancing then? Because you've been when did you take up directorship? Did you say it was 2017?
Like 4 years ago. So I've been doing this for 4 years now. Yeah.
Right. How have you found it balancing being the director, and now you're going back into competition as well? Because I know a lot of people go from competing, and then after they finish competing, they become a director. But I mean, having your own contestants is busy as it is. Let's just say that. You have to look after them. You sort of have to be their big sister or their mother. But then you decide you're going to go into pageantry, and Miss International is one of the biggest pageants in the world, and you're going to be going over to Japan. How are you balancing those?
Well, I have to admit that I never expected myself to compete again. It's also been quite a few years ever since my last pageant before, joining Miss International Netherlands. But when the Miss Beauty of the Netherlands organization got the Miss International license, I said, Miss International has always been my dream, my ultimate dream. And I never thought that, the opportunity would be there, for me to join it again. But then when we got that license, I said, you know what, I just must do this. It always has been my dream. And so last year, the Miss Beauty of the Netherlands pageant organized the Miss Beauty All-Stars pageant, which was a special edition, let's say.
Right.
And me as an all-star could join. So I represented my own state. And then, I joined, and now I'm here. So but the balance between having your girls competing as well as yourself competing is a lot. This season I actually got a really good season. My Miss Teen of Groningen became Miss Teen of the Netherlands, so she's going to Miss Teen International now.
Wow. Okay.
My contestant for Miss Earth became first runner-up. So I had a really good year. But yeah, it's a lot, balancing between those and giving each contestant as much, attention and energy. Yeah.
Why did you have your eyes on Miss International in particular? And I ask that because out of the 4, let's call them Grand Slam pageants, most pageant girls will say it's Universe, World, Earth, and International.
Correct.
I mean, everyone kind of knows who Universe is. A lot of people know World because it's been around forever. And Earth because it's Miss Earth. It's quite obvious, okay, it's about Earth. It's about the environment. I feel like at least here in Australia, International is the one that a lot of girls don't know about. So I'm curious, just why International for you? Why was that particular title so important?
Well, because I've been watching Miss International, for a long time, as well as the other Grand Slams, of course. But Miss International is so elegant, and I really feel like Miss International fits with my core values.
Right.
And now that the theme of this year's pageant is also sustainability in pageantry, I was like, this should have been this way, because if there's something that I'm passionate about, then it's pageantry. So what better way to celebrate it than with this theme of Miss International this year? Yeah, really happy about it.
So sustainability in pageantry, tell me a bit more, because I know sustainability, I know pageantry, but I think it's actually the first time I've heard about sustainability specifically in pageantry. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, they announced that the theme this year is sustainability in pageantry, and it's about how it's. English is not my first language. Let that be clear.
Your English is much better than my Dutch. I will just say that, okay? So you get a free pass. We'll get there. It's fine.
Okay. Well, sustainability in pageantry is about keeping pageantry alive. Let's say it's like I cannot really pronounce find the right
that makes
word
sense.
for it, but it's very much about keep evolving your pageant, going with the time, and keeping this industry alive. Let's say I cannot really find the right word for it.
I think the word that we use a lot is keeping pageantry relevant. Would that be the right word?
Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's a juicy topic. That's an interesting one, because I think there's a lot of people who can argue both ways. I think a lot of the public don't see pageantry as relevant anymore. And then I think there's a lot of people in pageantry who are trying to transform it into something else to keep it relevant. But I'm not sure they've worked out exactly what they want to turn it into. And I say this because you've seen different pageants take different choices, right? So you've had some pageants get rid of the swimsuit section, for example. You've seen some pageants put more points towards the girls' advocacy. You've had some pageants talent section, some pageants public speeches, and they all have different ways of judging. So I'm curious, because you're not only a contestant but a director. From your point of view, how do we keep pageants relevant?
How do we keep pageant relevant? Well, I think that it's really important to stay true to your own values, because that is also what makes you excited about your pageant, I think. On the other side, I also think it's really important to go with the time. Let's say. It's like you said, there's people who try to keep pageantry relevant by introducing other topics.
Sections.
Let's say and that is I think okay, but at the same time stay true to your values, because that is what made you excited about pageantry in the first place. And I think to keep pageantry relevant as well is also to keep to have the right people around you that are excited about pageantry as you are, and that you can, connect and unite and make it a bigger or a better pageantry together. So as long as you have the right people around you who have the same passion for pageantry, I think that, you can always make pageantry relevant still in your own way. Yeah.
Now, I mentioned this to you before we jumped on, but I saw the award behind you on the wall, which for those of you who don't know is an award from ClickFunnels, which is a business software. I've done over 300 of these interviews. I've never seen a ClickFunnels award. I think, Christina, you were surprised that I recognized what it was. But here's a question, because I love talking about business, and obviously I talk about pageantry all the time. Pageantry is a business at the end of the day, right? I mean, there are other facets to it. You're trying to help other people. There's a philanthropic aspect, trying to do those sorts of things, charity work, all good stuff. But at the end of the day, it's a business as well. And I think if you don't look at it as a business, you might have the best intentions in the world, but you have no one enter, and then your pageant's not going to last very long. So I'm curious, just for yourself as a businesswoman, why don't you go a little bit into your business background as well? Because you know, even though it's your partner's award, you wouldn't have the ClickFunnels award on the wall if you weren't interested in business as well. So why don't we delve into your business background as well?
Yeah. What would you like to know about my business?
Why don't we do it like pageantry? Take us back to the beginning.
Let's see. Well, yeah, like you said, pageantry is business, and also my own state pageant here in the Netherlands. Miss Beauty of Groningen is one of my businesses. It takes a lot to organize a pageant. I'm having a few hundreds, contestants coming to the casting each year. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
that's big. That's a lot bigger than I thought.
Well, each, the Netherlands is divided in 12 provinces, and each province has its own pageant. And each province, fortunately, has a few hundred, contestants. So that's really, really nice. But yeah, it's a lot. At the casting, we select 40 to 50 contestants for the finals eventually, and then of course you have your finals. You need to get a theater to have your pageant finals in at the same time. In the meantime, we have a few weeks with photo shootings, video shootings. We do beach cleanups, we have sponsor visits, and since this year I actually have a vice president to help me, because over the past few years I saw that it's sometimes just it's so much. It's like having a classroom with 40 or 50 kids that you have to that you have to teach things, learn things. It's a lot. So from this year on, I have a vice president helping me. Pageantry definitely is a business. It's a lot, but I love doing it. Otherwise, I also wouldn't do it, because it's just too much. So that is one thing, that's pageantry. I also have a company about maintaining social media for different companies. For example, I have a bridal store, the biggest bridal store in the northern part of the Netherlands. That's what I do social media for. And also, Miss Beauty of the Netherlands saw me as their best Q&A contestants, once. And ever since, they asked me to be their Q&A coach for our Dutch winners, Dutch contestants. So that's what I do now for not so long, actually. I think about half a year now. So that's something new. It's really exciting. So I hope to help others with it. So
Well, I can see why you'd be a Q&A coach, because you're doing this Q&A in your second language and you're doing very well. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, do you have any free time?
Well, sometimes, people ask me like, yeah, can you introduce yourself? What are your hobbies? And I'm like,
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I don't have so many hobbies anymore because I don't have time anymore.
Yeah. I think you've turned all your hobbies into businesses, which is the first sign of a serial entrepreneur. You can't have a hobby. Every hobby you have turns into a business. And this is why, I have your biography there and it's paragraphs long, which is a much better problem than someone who does nothing and has to sort of make something up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Okay, so we've gone through a lot, and I've just made a couple of notes here. I want to go back to a couple of things. So 400, you have 400 girls turn up to the casting.
Yeah.
That is a massive surprise to me, only because, to give you an example, here in Australia, a big pageant would 30, I would say, is already big. In fact, I'd say 20, and that's not with a casting. There's an application process, and pretty much everyone gets in. They don't like to say that, but unless, you've murdered someone or you've been in jail, you'll get in. So I'm amazed that each province can have something like 4. So when I asked you, how well known is pageantry in the Netherlands, it must be pretty well known to get that many girls entering. I mean, how do you go about finding them, or do they find you?
I think it's both ways, because we also scout girls on the streets or online, but I think that most girls, they sign up themselves. So that's of course really a compliment, and I'm really happy that we're getting bigger each year. That's also the reason why Miss Beauty of the Netherlands has been existing for over 10 years now. From this year on, we also got the Miss Universe license, and I expect that even more girls will sign up now. So I'm really excited for the new season to start again soon. So really, really curious how that's going to be.
Yeah, adding the universe title, I would hope, would make the numbers go bigger, because I think every girl will know what universe is. Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when your contestants sign up, how much do they know about what to expect? Because again, in Australia, very often they sign up, and sometimes I talk to them and they don't know anything about pageantry. I mean, sometimes I feel like they should have looked it up before they signed up, but they seem to know almost nothing about what pageantry is. A lot of them think it's Miss Congeniality, it's walking on stage in a bikini, etc., etc. Mm-hmm. They don't know about all the other stuff. So your 400 contestants, whittle it down to 40 or whatever it is, do they know what to expect when they sign up, or are they clueless?
I wouldn't say clueless, but I think that girls sometimes underestimate what it takes to become a winner eventually. Of course, you have girls who come back each year. They try and they try and they try, which is really nice to see, of course, because I feel like you need those girls. You need the ones that are really motivated to do their best. But there's also, of course, girls that sign up and then they end up in finals. And most of the times they didn't even expect it themselves, but then we see their potential. And I always try to motivate them, to of course tell them like, oh, you can do this, you can do this, and in that way they sort of wake up, like, oh my God, I can really win this, but I have to do this and this and this and this, and then sometimes they're a little overwhelmed, like, but it's a lot. So we try to show them a lot on Instagram, what can you expect? What are we going to do the upcoming weeks if you make it to the finals? But still, I think that some girls underestimate it. Yeah.
Wow. I'm still amazed by the 400 the girls that you have turn up to casting. I think we should get you to maybe coach some of our other directors in a business sense, how you can grow to that point, because that's huge. Well, sorry, you continue.
Oh no, I just wanted to say, like, if if I would have the possibility to actually, join an international organization, or in Australia, or, of course, I'm running for Miss International now, and take pageantry even to a higher level, that would be my absolute dream. I've seen the Miss Beauty of the Netherlands pageant grow so much. And I would love to help other organizations internationally to do the same, So yeah, if I have the chance to do so, I'd love to. And I can come to Australia, I'm applying here right now. So yeah.
Should fly you out as a consultant. And well, I know you've interviewed Selena, so you can meet up with Selena as well. Selena lives maybe an hour and a half north of me. Although I have to say, Selena, the other day, she was 10 minutes away from me, and she didn't even let me know. And I've never met her in person. And I'm like, you were just, Selena, you were like a few suburbs over from me. You could have let me know so I could have come and see what you were doing. I think she was doing some sort of event. Yeah. I'm curious, how have you found interviewing? Because you've interviewed a few of the other international contestants. Yes. How have you found that?
It was so much fun, primarily I told them, let's do a live stream. Let's, get to know each other. That was my idea with it, but I enjoyed it so much that I felt like if I can do this with literally, all 70 contestants, that would be amazing. But yeah, it's sometimes hard to find the right date and time, because we have so many time differences, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, like us.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, I mean, you don't have a lot of time as it is already. I can tell you from personal experience, trying to set up interviews with every contestant of a pageant. I did do that once. I had I think I had 10 interviews in 5 days. I was doing multiple interviews a day. It almost killed me. So I'm not sure it's a great idea. It's not like you don't have anything else to do. What did you think of? See, I'm Australian, as you know, but I'm just curious. How do you find my accent versus Selena's accent? Because I don't find they're similar, but they're not identical. Or to you, does my accent sound exactly like Selena's?
No, I don't think so. I think hers was a little more, I don't know the English word for it. Probably you've seen the video on which is on my Instagram, in which he says, good day, mate.
Yeah.
And, she really has this.
I can tell you a word for it, but it's probably not. It's not a rude word, but some people might think it's not a very good word to describe her accent. But I would say her accent probably is a stronger Australian accent than my own.
Yeah, I think so. Okay. Which is, I think, beautiful. Yeah, I really love her accent, and I love Selena anyway. So, Selena, if you're watching, I love you. But
I'm interviewing Selena, I think, next week. I'll pass it on to her.
Yeah, perfect.
But it's interesting to me because I've done so many of these interviews, and I worked on my accent a little bit because I didn't want to sound too Australian. And so, for example, Selena will say the typical Australian accent. It's not fair to just say Selena. But, when they say, I'll say a glass of water, right? Yeah. Water.
Yeah, water.
Water. Australians will say water.
Yeah.
Water.
Yeah.
Water. And then when Selena says good, I don't ever say good day. I have never once said that in my life. Okay. But if I was to say it, I would say g'day. Whereas I think Selena, it's more the stronger sense like g'day. It's like g'day, mate.
Yeah.
I have a horrible Australian accent. I can't do an Australian accent. When I'm over in America, all the Americans think I'm British. So I mean, I'd be curious if you just heard my accent and you didn't know, would you have thought I was Australian, or would you have thought I was something else?
That's a good question.
I'm curious.
I think I wouldn't say that you're Australian. No,
There you
I
go.
don't think so. No,
There you go.
but
Yep.
what you would be, that's also hard to say. So,
No idea. I don't know what he is, but I know he's not Australian. That's probably where we'd leave
yeah,
it.
right. Yeah.
That's fair enough. Let me go back to your contestants. So you have this amazing group of girls competing. I love the fact that you have some of the girls coming back again and again, year after year, because I always say if there's one way to pick whether a pageant is a good one, it's if the girls come back. If none of the girls from last year come back, that's not a good thing. It's really not. I don't care what the director says, it's not a good thing. If you have a lot of the same girls coming back year after year, that really shows obviously that there's something good happening. But let me ask you this. Putting your director's hat on, what do you look for in your contestants?
I always look for someone who is willing to work hard. That's my number one, because I've had pageant girls in the past who looked beautiful and of which I thought like, oh, you could definitely win nationals. But then when you wanted to work with them and you told them, oh, you can do this, or maybe we can do this, let's plan this, let's train this. And it was really hard working with them. And, like we said before, it takes so much to become a beauty queen, in the end. And some girls are just unaware of the things that, that come along with it. So I always say, I'd rather have someone who maybe doesn't have the overall looks, maybe, but someone who is willing to work, because that is your thing. That's your number one thing that you need, I think. Yeah. So someone who is willing to work hard, that's one. And at the same time, I think that she needs to be able to network. It's also really important. Also from a business, perspective, of course, it's really, really important that you should have your sponsors, being happy with your winners, and they should be involved, with the sponsors and with charities, communities. So that's really important. And of course, at the end of the day, I mean, pageantry wouldn't be pageantry if it's also a bit, at least, about, how you look. So, that's, of course, also important. But the number one thing is, to work hard. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of things, I mean, you can tell me whether you agree or disagree, but talking to you as a director, I think there's a lot of things you can teach your girls, but I also think there are some things that you can't teach your girls. And I think what you said about working hard, call it work ethic, or just having hunger to achieve, hunger to be their best. I don't think you can teach someone hunger. I also don't think you can teach someone values like kindness. So when I'm looking at girls, very often those are the first things I'll see is, yes, she really works hard. Like when you message her, she messages back, not necessarily straight away, but if she makes an appointment, she keeps it. If she says she's going to do something, she does it. You don't need to chase her up 5 times. And then also just that general in day-to-day life, are they kind, or are they talking badly about other people when the cameras are off? I'm curious, have you found that? I mean, do you agree with that? There are some things you can teach and there are some things you can't teach? Yeah,
definitely. Like you say, characteristics, like, are you kind? Are you honest? That's something that you cannot teach. When it comes to, being on time, having your appointments. Yeah. I mean, you can tell girls to be on time. In the end, it's always the question if they do so.
Of course,
but I think that it's difficult, because I feel like hunger, for example, like you said, you cannot teach someone to be hungry. If you really want something, you work for it. And if you say you want something, but you don't work for it, then apparently you don't want it bad enough.
exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's also always what I tell my girls. Sometimes they come up to me and they say like, yeah, I want this so bad, but I just cannot find the time to do so, for example. And then then apparently it's not your priority.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
yeah, it's hard. It's maybe a little tough to say it, but then apparently
It's
it's not your
true.
priority. Yeah.
I mean, it's
Um,
tough, but it's true. I
yeah.
mean, we all have time in the day for what's important to us. That's a cliche, but that's really true. And if you
Mhm.
didn't have time to do it, then it wasn't that important to you. It doesn't matter what you say, it matters more what you do.
Exactly. Everyone has 24 hours a day, and it's up to you how you make use of it. So, yeah.
100%. Okay. Now, you started competing, then you started directing,
Yeah.
and now you're going back to competing yourself.
Yeah.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would feel in your situation that there's a bit of pressure on me now because I've been going through contestants, I've been mentoring them, I've been, all that stuff. And now I'm putting myself back on the stage again. And
Yeah.
so maybe I'm feeling like there's a bit more pressure on me this time because I've been telling all these girls all these things and now I have to show them that I can do it too. Is that just my imagination or has some of that been happening, Christina?
No, yeah, you're completely right on that. On the other hand, I'm also feeling like, I'm doing this for me.
Yep.
So, I don't really mind about what others, think about it. Because this has been my dream for so long, and now that it's finally the time is here, I'm not gonna let myself being influenced by what others think about me. My mind lately has been totally about Miss International. Like literally every second of the day I'm thinking about, oh, I can do this or I can do that or I can prepare this. Or so yeah, what others think about me, of course I feel like
Yeah.
I'm having all these girls watching me, which is nice. I mean, I have their support.
Yeah, of
At
course.
the same, yeah, I do feel like I have to prove something, but that also keeps me sharp. You know, it brings out the best version of myself, I think. So, yeah.
How far back were you crowned Miss International Netherlands? How long
Uh,
ago?
I was in March, I think. Yeah, March.
Okay, so you've had the title for about 6 months. I mean, we've already discussed how busy you must be, and
Mhm.
then when you win your dream title, obviously, then someone such as yourself, I have to imagine, goes completely crazy and starts doing all these other things. Can you just give people an idea what has the past 6 months been like for you? I have to imagine it's been like a whirlwind or tornado or something.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I think that yeah, what I done, instantly was, to get my network
Hmm.
together. I've been contacting a lot of people, like, do you want to help me with this, help me with that?
Hmm.
Because I believe that you should surround yourself with the people that you can learn from.
Yeah.
So I contacted the people that I thought that I can learn something from, and that can help me with my costumes, with my dresses, because this time that I compete, everything must be perfect for me. So because also this is going to be the last time that I compete, that's something that I'm
Okay.
sure of.
Okay.
So yeah, networking and having the right people around me was my first priority. So yeah.
And I'm curious because you have so many different sides of your personality. So I'm just, when you hit Japan, when you land in Japan and you start talking to all these other amazing women, some of whom you've already talked to, most of whom you probably haven't, at least, face to face.
Hmm.
What are you going to say about yourself? Like I mean, you already said it's kind of difficult to introduce yourself. I feel like, especially when you go into interview in front of judges, when you do so much like you do, and you have, I don't know, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 10 minutes to sort of squash your life into like two sentences. What
Hmm.
are the things that you really want to get across?
Well, I graduated in law at the University of Groningen, and I also work at the Ministry of Justice in the Netherlands, besides my businesses. So, yeah, I think that those are also really a big part of who I am. Also my background in law has helped me in business. It's always nice to know what you can expect in legal situations, and I often help my friends or family if they have a legal question, let's say. So yeah, law also has been a really big part of who I am. Maybe nowadays I don't do as much with law as I did when I was studying.
Yeah.
But it's really a big part of my identity still. Yeah.
I love how you forgot to mention that you have a job outside of your businesses.
Yeah. Well,
Just you
because
forgot that completely.
well, like I said, lately my mind has been with Miss International
Sure.
all the time, So yeah, I sometimes forget I also have a job. So.
I hope you don't forget to do your job. You just forget to talk about it. Hopefully, you don't actually forget that you got somewhere to be.
No.
But so, lawyer, obviously, high flying career. It means you're going to be, I would assume, intelligent, well spoken. If it's anything like any other country, not just anyone can get into law. So that explains that part of you. I'm curious, the other part of you, what gets you going? Like, what are you passionate about? What causes are you passionate about? I'd have to imagine if you're a director, you're looking after these young women, your contestants, some of it has to be you really want to help, young women grow up to be whatever it is. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. That has to be in there somewhere. But what are some of the causes that you're really passionate about?
Well, I'd say, the part you just said, women empowerment is really, really my passion. I love teaching all these young women to be their best versions of themselves. It's funny how sometimes girls come to a casting being a little insecure, like watching, what am I doing here? Am I doing it this right? And then after a few weeks, seeing them on a stage, being so confident and, speaking about what they believe in and what they want to become and what they want to do with their title. That's really something that, I'm looking like a proud mom, from the judges table, like, oh,
Yeah.
look at her.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really that's my number one passion. Apart from that, I'm also passionate about creating equal opportunities. During my time at the University of Groningen, I did an internship at a refugee camp here in the Netherlands, and I had to tell refugees what their asylum procedure was going to look like. And it was a really, really, it was a really tough time. Was also, I learned a lot during that time. But it was also really hard because sometimes people, refugees came up to me saying like, oh, I'm waiting for my asylum here. I'm not able to work or to go to school at the moment, but I want to do something. I'm just sitting here doing nothing. Literally waiting. But I want to do something. I want to contribute to society, to our community. What can I do? And I had to tell them, I'm sorry, but as long as you don't have your asylum, you cannot do something. And that really opened my eyes. Like, there are so many people out there who want to be able to do something, to contribute, to make themselves useful, but they just cannot, just because they come from another country where maybe it's not safe. That really opened my eyes, and that really is something that I'm passionate about. Like, doing something for those people, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, that must have been a transformative experience dealing with people like that because they got to go
Mhm.
through the process, and
Yeah,
there's no shortcuts. So you really, as much as your heart might want to help them, you
yeah,
can't, and that must be
exactly.
really tough.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time it was also, people were really grateful when I,
Mm.
got
Yeah.
to, help them in some way, even if it was just, having a talk about it. It really helped them to, go through that time, and that was really really nice, being that person for them. So
Mm. I guess it must also make you feel quite grateful for your own life and your life in the Netherlands because a lot of
definitely. Yeah, definitely. And I think that also, especially in the Netherlands, we have, and I think also in Australia, by the way, we have,
Mm.
we must be so grateful for all the opportunities that we get, like
Yeah.
all of our children, kids here can just go to school, and
Mm.
there's not even a question about it, it's like
Yeah.
yeah, it's really, really important that we should be grateful for all those things.
Yeah. I think that's something that I definitely learnt about Australia during COVID because just before COVID hit, so early 2020, I don't know what it was like in the Netherlands, but I
Yeah,
was
same.
actually traveling in the UK for Pageant just early 2020, just before the entire of the UK anyway went into lockdown, probably on and off for more than a year. It was a terrible time, I remember. And then I came back here because at that point I wanted to see all these other countries, and I still do. I want to meet people, but I don't think I've ever been more grateful to be living in Australia than when COVID hit. Because like sometimes when things get difficult, it makes you realize how good you have it back home. And I
Yep.
think sometimes before that happens, you take it a bit for granted. I don't know about yourself, but I
Yeah.
also think when you deal with someone like refugees or the homeless, I think it just it gives you a different perspective, I would imagine.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because there's also lots of people who have their opinions ready about
Mm,
refugees, saying that maybe they only come to Europe for economical reasons, for example.
hmm.
But I've seen different now.
Yeah,
I've heard their stories. I've had talks with them myself. I look them in the eyes myself,
yeah,
and that makes it so so different. And that's also why I really want to advocate, for the equal opportunities part, because yeah, it's really it's still so clear in my mind, seeing those faces of those
yeah. I'll
people.
bet. Yeah.
Yeah, I also think it's hard to imagine if you haven't
Mm.
spoken with them yourself. Yeah. So
Yeah, I think once you speak to them face to face, you realize that this is actually a person. It's a
yeah,
real person. It's not a number. It's not a refugee. It's not
yeah,
someone who's coming to steal my job. It's a person. And I think,
exactly,
there are good people and bad people. It doesn't matter what you do. But I think it's really important to remember they're people first, you
exactly.
know.
Yeah.
Um, let's switch tacks a little bit. Way
Mm-hmm.
back, you mentioned social media.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad I made some notes here. Otherwise, I wouldn't remember all the things that you did. But you talked about social
Oh,
media, and exactly, and you do it. You said, I think you're working for. Was it a bridal agency? You said a bridal boutique. Okay.
yeah.
Uh, can you give pageant girls some social media tips? Just because sometimes I think they don't really know what to do, and so
Mm-hmm.
they end up looking at what everyone else is doing, and then they do the same. And
Yeah.
I kind of wish they'd look at it more like, okay, you maybe not a business, but you are a brand. It's like they say everyone is a salesperson. It doesn't matter whether you have a product to sell, you still got to sell yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
can you just give us some basic social media tips for pageant girls?
I'd say be visible. It's really, really important to be visibly, online visibly. Um, so, like we're doing now with this live stream, or the live streams that I did with the other girls, you know, those girls will also share your video again. So then you're also seen again. So you must be online visible. That's really important. I'd say be unique. And with that, I mean, don't copy others, because I always say that you cannot do something better than, you know, someone that has been doing it for a long time. So always try to highlight the things that you're good at, instead of copying someone else and trying to do it better than she or he did. So that's also something that I'd say that, you know, could work. And what else? I mean, if we're talking about, you know, feed wise, you know, just play a bit with, you know, full body shots, headshots, you know, and plan your feed before posting it. That's really helpful. So
mix it up a little bit. Don't do the same posts again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Okay. Christina, when are you leaving for Japan?
I'm leaving the 27th of October. So I will be in Japan at the 28th, because it's quite a long journey for me from the Netherlands to Japan. So yeah.
I don't know if you talked about this with Selena, but what's a long journey for you?
I think the flight in total is about 14 or 15 hours. Yeah.
Okay.
That's quite long.
I don't know how long Selena's is going to be. I actually think to Japan is not too bad for us, but like Australia to America is quite close to 24 hours.
Yeah.
Once to fly to the UK, it was 48 hours door to door. So I always have a bit of a laugh when you guys say, oh, it's a really long trip. Like some people in America, oh, it's a really long flight. It was 8 hours. I'm like, it's basically a walk down the road for most of us. What do you give us an idea? What's the schedule at Miss International going to be like? How long are you going to be there? What have they got planned?
Well, the pageant itself is going to be for like 2 weeks. So the finals will be at the 12th of November. And from the very first day till the finals, we have lots of sponsor visits. We're going to do some cultural events, like the flower sculpting, the ikebana, I think it's called. We have tea ceremonies. I think that at some days the group will be divided. Like some girls go to, I think they also go to the sea one day. Others will go to a sponsor. Some will go to, some diplomats, ambassadors. So I think it's also up to, the group that you're divided in. So in that, so I don't know everything yet, of course, but yeah.
What are you most looking forward to?
Well, I'm really looking forward to the national costume competition, honestly, because I have a really, really nice national costume. So I'm really looking forward to that, especially, And also to see the national costumes of the other countries is, in my opinion, always such a party to look at, because there's so many beautiful costumes. Yeah.
It's like a miniature Met Gala runway or something like that, seeing all the weird and wonderful things they can come up with. Now, I know that you pageant girls, you keep your wardrobe secret, so I'm not going to ask you to tell us what it is. But just for my own sake, is your national costume going to be easy to pack?
Well, it's a lot. It's not like really big, like Latin America or Asian countries. But still, it has a lot of fabric. So I think it's going to be a little heavy, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. You know that heavy and airplanes don't go so well together.
No, unfortunately not. I think I need multiple suitcases for that, but it's okay. It's okay.
This is why you work so hard, so you can be able to afford extra luggage on your trip to Japan.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what we work for. And like I said, it's my dream. So I also told myself this time, it's my dream. You said it was your dream. So then you're also going to pay whatever it takes to, to get
Sure.
there and have your, costumes ready, your dresses, everything. So
Have
yeah.
you given any thought to what you would do if you take the big title out?
What I would do if I would win the title?
Yeah.
Well, of course, I'd keep my word, sustainability in pageantry. I would really do my best to make, the Miss International pageant more popular, bigger, better than it already is. So and that's also what I do in the Netherlands, and that's what I'm passionate about. So I would really look forward, to be able to do that for a big organization like Miss International. And hopefully, stay in Japan a little longer to, discover the country a little more. Yeah.
Have you looked up anything about Japan? Have you been learning about the culture, the food, the people, the rituals,
Yeah.
trying to learn something about the food?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a tea ceremony here in the Netherlands
Oh
quite a
wow.
while ago,
Yeah.
because I learned that a tea ceremony is really something with, rules. And
Mm.
a tea ceremony in the Netherlands is, yeah, we don't even have a ceremony. Like when we're
Yeah.
saying that you have tea, it's just like,
You just
oh,
have tea. Yeah.
having a chat with a little cookie maybe, and
Yeah.
chatting. But in Japan, it's really, really different. Like the way you hold your cup and turn it twice so that the little drawing on the cup should be in front of the people, and then drinking it in two, maximum three sips, and then passing it on. And
Wow.
it's quite, some rules that come along with it. But I'm really happy to, being able to discover it soon. So yeah.
Yeah. From what I've never done one, but from what I've seen of it, it is very formal. It's not
Yes.
just drinking tea.
Mhm.
There's very detailed ceremony behind it, and I'm sure there's a reason for all of it. So I think it's something that you would want to make sure that you do well. I've met a lot
Exactly.
of and worked with a lot of Japanese people. I was in Hawaii and just bumped into a Japanese couple, and they asked me, "What do you do?" And at the time, I was a tennis coach.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget, you're in the middle of Waikiki. These people you've never met, they ask you what you do. And I said, tennis coach. And they started bowing. Like no one in Australia bows to you, right? And they started
Yeah.
bowing like, and I couldn't understand. I was quite embarrassed. But it turns out because they have such respect for teachers,
Oh, yeah.
anyone who teaches, or I guess they thought of a coach, a tennis teacher, because in Australia, at least, teachers are not looked up to maybe
Yeah,
as
in
much.
Netherlands. Yeah.
Yeah, but in Japan, I don't know. I don't know if this will happen to you, but there's a whole thing with bowing as well. And so, if you're I think I could be wrong, but if you're the senior person, then you must not bow as low. The other person
Yeah.
has to bow lower. And so
Yeah.
there's all these little bits and pieces. It's one of the countries that I'd really like to visit because it has all these rituals and a really,
Exactly.
really deep culture. So
Yeah.
you must be excited.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've also been to the Japanese embassy here in the Netherlands.
Oh wow!
So technically seen, I've already been in Japan. But
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
so yeah, but they also taught me a lot about, exactly like the bowing and giving
Mhm.
each other business cards, for example, is also really common there. And if you feel like the person in front of you is like more important, then you should give the business card like below the
Yeah.
hands of the other one. Yeah, it's really, really interesting culture to get to know. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you tried learning any Japanese?
Also, yeah, I have Duolingo installed on my phone.
Okay. There we go.
So yeah, I'm learning, but I have to say that for uh, probably for most part of the world, but also for Dutch, it's so different from what I'm used to. There's not a single word that even looks a bit like Dutch. Like, when I hear English or French or Spanish, sometimes you have words that are, similar, or that you can think about, and then you can probably guess what it means.
Yeah.
But with Japanese, there's not a single word that I could recognize in some way. So, yeah.
No. I mean, I'm curious. Because you speak English, obviously, and obviously Dutch. Are there any other languages?
Well, in the Netherlands, you have on high school, you have different languages that you have to learn.
Right.
I chose German and French as well. And I could choose to do Spanish as well, but I thought that French and German was enough. But I speak a little German, and I speak a little French as well. So, yeah.
It's wild to me whenever anyone can speak more than one language, and here you are, Japanese will be your fifth, even if it's only a little bit of German and French. But what I wanted to ask you was, how did you find learning English? Because me as a native speaker, I don't think about it, but I've always thought that learning English as a second language, it's actually one of the hardest languages to learn, because it has so many exceptions, so many weird rules and words that are pronounced the same, but they mean completely different things. Where I learned a bit of French, and French to me, you could follow the rules. It was quite easy. But I'm just curious, how do you find, let's say, learning English versus learning French or learning German?
Well, have you ever tried learning German? Because that is really hard.
Is it?
Ein bisschen, yeah. No, German is grammatically seen really, really hard. But I think what helped me personally was, as a kid, I watched television, and I also watched, for example, MTV. My Sweet 16, the things like that.
Right.
And I really think that it helped me by watching English spoken programs. But I always found English not the hardest language to learn. Actually, I did high school in English for 2 years.
Okay.
So, I don't know. To me, it wasn't the hardest, but I do know people that find it hard. So,
I guess taking high school for 2 years in English probably helped a lot.
I had mathematics, biology. I had it all in English. So that I think that also helped.
Yeah, that'll definitely help a lot. I'm sure your Japanese, as good as your Japanese will get now, I'm sure when you come back, your Japanese will be a lot better than it was when you left. I mean, it just happens, right? When you're in the country.
I hope.
Christina, before we get to before we wrap things up, is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to?
If there's any, well, I have to say that the girls that I've spoken so far on my live streams are absolutely, adorable, and I love them so much already. So if there's anyone I can give a shout out to, then it's definitely those girls. And I'm really looking forward to meeting them in person, and give each other, little gifts. Like I already have something, ready. So I would really give a shout out to my fellow contestants, because they're amazing. So
Perfect. Do you know, just off the top of your head, how many contestants, how many countries are there going to be?
70.
Wow.
Yeah.
A lot. That's a lot, because Miss International didn't have a competition for quite a long time during COVID. So I'm happy to hear that they're sort of back with a bang, so to speak.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, let's get through the final 10. So 10 questions. Here we go. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word is love.
I was going to say it could be in Dutch or English or French or German, but whatever. What's your favorite Dutch word?
My favorite Dutch word. Oh, that's a good question. Um, oh, never thought of it.
You had English was easier for you,
Yeah,
right?
because I find love such a warm word, love, you
Yeah.
can also pronounce like love. A Dutch nice word. My favorite Dutch word. Oh, I think I know a Dutch word. It's called hagelslag. And it is something I know because, you know, when people hear this word, they say like hagelslag, but it's the sprinkles that we put on our bread. It's really, really Dutch. It's like chocolate sprinkles that we put on our bread as a lunch or as breakfast. So,
Just I remember when I interviewed Satya and she tried to get me to speak some Dutch words, and I was like, I don't want to because I'm afraid I'm going to end up spitting everywhere. You know, that
yeah,
it sounds like before someone spits. It's literally
yeah.
but what was the word?
Hagel,
Huckelsloth? I couldn't.
hagelslag.
There's a lot of that sort of. It's in the back here. I don't want to spit all over. Huckelsloch. Oh my.
I'm sorry.
I
You're doing
find
great.
I find the Dutch accent anything that involves those, because we don't have those sounds in English. I mean, you would know.
Mhm. Yeah.
The one thing I find curious, though, and your accent is actually very, very clear.
Mm.
It doesn't really sound like it's come from Dutch. The one thing that I've from listening to Dutch speakers when they're speaking English, it's like, for example, when Satya said groceries, as in, to buy some groceries.
Yeah.
She said groceries. It's
Oh.
like the SH versus
Uh-huh.
the S. And I'm
Uh-huh.
just curious, do you know why that would be the case? Because there seems to be a lot of in the Dutch language when they're speaking English, they'll say the sh rather than the
Uh-huh.
s.
Well,
Is there
I can also speak English with a really Dutch accent. Um, you know,
now you're just showing off?
right? No, well, no, I'm not showing off, but okay,
It's funny because see, this is what I was saying. When I speak, I do it without the Australian accent. I could be a
Mhm,
lot more Australian, and I bet you when I interview Selena, I will
mhm,
go more Australian because she sounds more Australian, so I will speak more Australian. But I'm
mhm.
sure you can speak English with a strong Dutch accent.
Yes, I can. Okay, so let me see. Okay, I'll just say something in Dutch English.
Well, I can
um,
give you the next question. Why don't we go to the next question
yeah.
and you can
Okay.
answer it
Yeah.
in very strong Dutch English. Okay, so number
Okay.
2, what is your least favorite word?
My least favorite words, I think, is it in English or in Dutch?
Well, this is really funny. I love accents. Why don't we do one of both? Do a English and do a Dutch.
My favorite word or my least favorite word in Dutch, I think it's mm, I never thought about those kind of questions. Okay, I'll just
You can
turn to
speak
my
normally
journal.
now. Yeah, yeah. I'm worried you're going
um,
to end up with all the saliva coming out of your mouth.
Now, my least favorite word in Dutch, I think, is oh, I don't know. It's yeah,
It's funny too. It's the Dutch one is harder for you. What about English
yeah,
then? Let's go with
yeah.
English.
Okay, well, I cannot come up with a Dutch word that I don't like at the moment. But for English, I think it is, yeah, I'd say, no, I cannot come up with something that I don't like. No, sorry.
Okay,
No,
but that's all right. You're not the first person to have a struggle working out a word they don't like.
yeah,
Have you heard that some people really hate the word moist?
moist.
Yeah, for
Hmm.
some reason, especially a lot of women really hate the word moist.
Probably because they imagine the picture that comes with moist.
Probably. But then I have a follow-up question.
Mhm.
Isn't that very similar to a word in Dutch? Isn't there a word in Dutch that's moistete or something? Because I think I remember seeing it on a lot of posts. It doesn't mean like pretty or beautiful or something like that.
Oh, yeah. When we say when someone is beautiful, we
Yeah.
say that they are mooi. So it's
Okay.
like
There you go.
MOOI.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I always thought that was funny because that word, which means beautiful in Dutch, it's so close to a word in English that everybody hates. And I
yeah.
see it on all the Dutch girls post, like, you look so moist. I'm like, that's not what you want to say at all.
I never thought about it that way, but yeah, it is. It's quite similar. Yeah.
There you go. All right, so let's move on. Number 3 in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on? Pageantry.
Pageantry. It's easy.
That's a simple one. Okay, so that's what turns you off. Then what turns you off? So that was what turns you on. What turns you off?
What turns me off? I think people that are not motivated. Like, that's really always when I try to empower people, and they're like, oh, I don't I no I cannot deal with those people. No.
It's all right. I can see your body language. You actually look like you're very uncomfortable even thinking about people like that. Okay, number 5. What sound do you love?
Birds.
Any particular kind of birds?
Yeah, well, I don't know the English words for it. Here in the Netherlands, we have birds called merels.
Okay.
And as a kid, I when I was playing outside a lot, I used to lay on the ground and watch the trees, the wind in the trees, and listening to the birds. So always when I'm in forest, kinds of landscapes, then I always come to rest. So I really like birds. Yeah.
Okay. The reason I ask you what sort of birds, I don't know if Selena mentioned this. Have you heard kookaburras or cockatoos? You've heard kookaburras? They're laughing. Have you heard cockatoos?
No.
Okay. I will have to show you some cockatoo sounds because I've been on podcasts before and cockatoos have been screeching, and then people have asked me whether that was a dinosaur in the background because they're not like the kookaburra. It's very funny because it sounds like a laugh, and I understand sweet birds singing. Cockatoos, and they're very Australian. They're the most Australian, but you have to ask Selena about them. I don't know whether she likes them or not, but they're a very Australian bird. I'll play it for you after this. Number whatever it is, I think it's number 6. What sound do you hate?
What sound do I hate? I hate the sound of how's the metal kind of music, and then like the really hard metal kind of music.
Okay.
Or no, I don't like that. No.
Yes, I describe it as someone falling down the stairs with a drum kit. So that.
No, it's not my type of music.
I shouldn't. I was trained in classical music. I played the violin since I was 2. So yeah, nice. me and like death metal or thrash metal music don't really get along.
No.
But to each their own. Number 7. If you could have any superpower, what would you pick and why?
I want to read people's minds.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I do. Yeah, I really want to read people's minds because I feel like then you can understand their way of thinking better and the way they see, situations. And I think that it also helps people unite more. So I want to read people's minds.
Okay. All right. Don't say I didn't warn you. I think sometimes when you read people's minds, you might get something that you don't want. That's my problem with that.
Or
But,
you do.
yes, it depends how nosy you are, but I guess to each their own. Let's go to number 8. What job would you like to attempt?
To attempt. And then not having to think about any studies that you should do, or well, and I think I heard you saying something about this a while ago, that you said that lots of pageant girls are into, investigations and crime scenes.
You're one of those, are you? You want to investigate serial killers and be a CSI person and look at blood stains?
Well, I would like to be, at the police or something like that, which is, of course, maybe a little close to law in general.
Sure.
Otherwise, maybe a pilot on an airplane.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, that's much more reasonable than wanting to investigate serial killers. I'll never understand why so many pageant girls are interested in murderers, but maybe one day I'll figure it out. Who knows? What job would you not like to attempt?
I think, what's the English word for that? When people have debts, and then sometimes people come at their door, taking
debt collector.
Exactly.
Debt collector. Yeah.
Debt collector. Yeah. I've seen. There was once a person on my university who gave a class about it and told his experiences, and then I was really like, oh, that must be such a tough job. So no, I didn't want to be a debt collector.
No one is going to be happy to see you, are they, if you're a debt collector? No one's going to be happy to have you knocking at the door.
Exactly.
Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates or arrive at heaven?
That I have made a difference during my life for other people, I think. Perfect.
Well, Christina, that's about it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me here. And
best of luck over in Japan. I'm sure you're going to have an absolutely amazing time. And I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang out with the audience. But thanks everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now.
And thank you.